James Comer has found new mounting evidence on the autopen, which is actually important to the Trump agenda. So good job, Rep. James Comer. Way to stay on that news article and not be distracted on stupid trivia trying to undermine the Trump agenda. Welcome to Doug in Exile. This is where the happy patriots are. This is by James Comer and the GP Oversight. They point to one clear conclusion. Joe Biden wasn't the one calling the shots in the White House. We have more with the actual evidence from James Comer himself on Maria Bartiromo. Let's watch this first, and then we'll make comments.
It will pick up its investigation into Joe Biden's mental fitness this week and the use of the auto pen. Former White House Deputy Assistant Andrew Bates will sit down for an interview on Friday. Also testifying this month, former White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre, along with former White House Chief of Staff Jeff Zients. Joining me right now with a status check of his investigation is the chairman of the House Oversight Committee, Kentucky Congressman James Comer. Mr. Chairman, good to see you. Thank you so much for being here.
Good morning, Maria.
What are you expecting to hear out of Friday's interview? And can you give us a status check on where you are in this investigation?
Yeah, well, these are the last three that we have scheduled transcribed interviews for. We may expand it, but thus far, we're going to have interviewed close to a dozen former Biden staffers, high-level staffers. I mean, these are from chiefs of staff, the White House spokespeople. And what we're trying to determine is whether or not Joe Biden had any idea who was using that auto pen.
So they're going to get to this, but Karine Jean-Pierre is testifying. That's today they're recording her. By the way, on the last video, I ripped on Kentucky. And my Kentucky people, I got to give a defense because I ripped on Thomas Massie and Mitch McConnell going, what the heck is going on in Kentucky? Here's a good guy, Kentucky Congressman James Comer, Republican. So bless Kentucky and the real Republicans who are not trying to undermine Trump.
And what was being signed with his name on that auto pen. And thus far, Maria, we haven't gotten a lot of evidence that would suggest he had any clue as to what was going on. And the reason this investigation is important is because all of these pardons, the thousands of pardons that were signed with the auto pen, as well as the legal documents like the executive orders that were signed with the auto pen, these are all in question now. And I think that this investigation will go a long way in determining whether or not President Trump and the courts can declare all of those pardons and executive orders null and void.
So do you have a sense of what was going on in the Joe Biden White House while he was seeing his memory decline and his overall health decline? Is that what you have taken away from this?
Yes. And, you know, we had the doctor in, Dr. O'Connor. We asked him a simple question. Were you ever told to lie about President Joe Biden's health? And he pled the Fifth Amendment. I mean, he couldn't even answer that question. So we brought in a lot of people that we know used the auto pen. They were the ones who physically put the documents and hit the power button to sign Joe Biden's name. And they never saw Joe Biden. The president never said, here, sign my name on this auto pen or whatever. So we're trying to find who that person was.
And it would be pretty easy for these witnesses to come up with an email saying, look, here's an email from Joe Biden. I didn't meet him in person, but I have this document. Joe Biden said, go ahead and use the auto pen. I give you permission. So they're not providing any evidence because they have no evidence that Joe Biden actually pulled the trigger on the auto pen. And there's all these people between Biden and the auto pen, right? All these people who do not have presidential authority. That has to come from Biden. And it's going to be made clear. I've got more documents to show you, but I'm just saying this is why it's significant that no one remembers getting the green light from Biden. No one will testify that Biden told them anything, and they won't produce an email to James Comer saying they got authority from Biden. So as far as we know, there's no evidence there. I haven't seen any evidence.
That started this chain of events that resulted in documents being signed with the auto pen. We had Ian Sams, who was a huge critic of me during the Biden investigation, who was a huge critic of the Hur report, who would go on TV constantly and say he spoke with Joe Biden and Joe Biden's at the top of his game. He said under oath, he only spoke, physically met with Joe Biden, looked him in the eye, spoke to Joe Biden 2 times over a 2-year period.
So they go on TV when they're not under oath. They're like, I was very close to Biden. Same with Karine Jean-Pierre. And then under oath, they'll only say, I met with him twice in 4 years.
Yet he would go out almost on a daily basis and imply to the world that, yeah, I've been with President Biden and he's at the top of his game. So there was clearly a cover-up of Joe Biden's mental decline. What we're trying to get down to is the specific instances when Joe Biden's signature was used on the autopen. And just last week, Maria, there was
and hold on, guys, specific instances. I got to tell you this because everyone's going to go, there'll be no arrests. Nothing will happen. All I know is nothing will happen. Do you know why nothing will happen? Because you can only prosecute one specific instance at a time. And that one specific instance has to be utterly Loctite, completely documented, airtight, because you can't just go after someone on hearsay and go, close enough. It happened all the time. Throw him in prison. That's why no one will go to prison if this man does not do his job utterly, thoroughly, beyond a reasonable doubt to bring to a jury. He has to have one specific incidence where someone signed that document and pushed the auto pen where they know for a fact that Biden did not allow it. That's the evidence you need. So don't make up like, oh, James Comer, he's lazy. He's not doing it. No, he is doing his job. If we can keep him from being distracted on the Epstein BS fake story, anti-Trump, pro-Democrat stuff that they're trying to get us distracted on. This guy needs to go find hard evidence, and he's walking in all these eyewitnesses, the last 3 this week.
The letter that surfaced from the Department of Justice, from the Merrick Garland Department of Justice to the White House saying, look, you can't use that auto pen on legal documents. So
they do have Merrick Garland saying you can't use it. That's new piece of evidence, saying you can't use the auto pen without absolute authority given to you. That's from inside of Joe Biden's own administration. And that is really good evidence for Republicans when you can find them warning each other of it. It has extra weight. It means it's not just politicized.
They were warned from their own Department of Justice about overusing that auto pen, yet they continued to do it.
Unbelievable. So, I mean, when you look at what has taken place here, do you see criminality? Is there anything we need to know that we're not aware of in terms of criminality?
I don't know about criminality, but I will tell you this.
That's a no. To answer her question bluntly, it's either I don't know or a no on criminality. They don't have anything on criminality yet.
If documents were signed using Joe Biden's signature and Joe Biden had no idea what was being signed, had no knowledge of the person who was using the auto pen to forge his signature, then I think those documents that were signed, and we're talking about thousands of pardons and many executive orders that are being used to hurt Donald Trump in court right now. A lot of those executive orders in the lame duck period were to Trump-proof this administration. So
that's when they gave all the money to environmental groups. They protected Fauci. That is, we can't get Fauci without finding a way around that pardon.
I think that, what we're focused on are the legal documents used with the auto pen and whether or not Joe Biden knew what was going on. Thus far, I haven't seen anything that would suggest that he did.
I want.
Okay, but absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. You have to go keep looking. They have to find one clear evidence that will become the bulwark, the foundation of all these other things. They've got to find one. And they're looking. They're trying to shake information out of these witnesses, and they'll put a case together. But you're not going to be able to expand this thing unless they find one. And like I said in our previous video I did last week, it was auto pen is the key that unlocks all of the doors to many of these investigations. Hillary Clinton was not pardoned by auto pen. So Hillary Clinton is still on the table to be looked into and prosecuted. But guys like Adam Schiff, he got pardoned by an auto pen. So it's going to limit who we can and can't go after. And that's why this job is job one. It is the key to there being justice. Now, I hope you'll let me continue to make my case right here, because I'm happy that Comer is on Trump's mission. This is on the job. It's not Trump's mission. Epstein files. Here's a new release from Epstein. From the Trump War Room posted this. The confused and badly failing Democrat Party did nothing about Jeffrey Epstein while he was alive except befriend him, socialize with him, travel to his island, and take his money. They knew everything there was to know about Epstein But now, years after his death, they out of nowhere are seeming to show such love and heartfelt concern for his victims. This includes Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massie. Everyone knew. And now, suddenly, this week, by the way, I love when I do shows and Trump ends up repeating everything I've been doing for weeks on Epstein, proving me right. The guy closest to the whole thing is coming up with the same arguments. Now, you might think he's a pedo and he's trying to cover something up. You're welcome to float that up in the comments. Go ahead and say it. I don't believe it. Does anyone really believe that? Where were they during the public trials and for all those years before his death? The answer is nowhere to be found. The now dying, after the DOJ gave thousands of pages of documents in full compliance with a very comprehensive and exacting subpoena from Congress, the now dying Epstein case was only brought back to life by the radical left Democrats because they are doing so poorly with the lowest poll numbers in history. And you know who they used? They used Marjorie Taylor Greene, Anna Paula Luna. They used Thomas Massie, and they used half of MAGA that are going also unsubscribe if you don't look for those child victims. You know, you're being used. I'm not used. I'm not a sucker. I'm on board with the Trump agenda. While the Republicans are doing so well, among the highest approval ratings, the Dems don't care about the victims, as proven by the fact that they never did before. I wonder if Trump watches my channel. These are all my arguments. We know the Democrats don't care about victims, so don't you get in my chat and say we care about the victims. They didn't care about them for 20 years, and now they're being used. And there are active child abduction victims today, the 300,000 missing children that we could go save. Tom Homan's going to save them. We have to put resources on that. Yes. On this, no. James Comer needs to stay on autopen, or you're not going to get a reformed government, and they're going to use this to impeach Trump. This is another Democrat hoax. Democrat hoax. It's a Democrat hoax, just like Russia, 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 and all the others, in order to deflect and distract from the great success of the Republican president and the record-setting future of the previous administration and Democrat Party. Record-setting failure, of the previous administration and the Democrat Party. The Department of Justice has done its job. That's Comer. They have given everything requested of them, and it's never enough information, guys. They'll always be, well, you gave us 33,000 documents, but now we need more. Because there's no evidence, not one new name, not one new victim, not one new piece of evidence has come out. No matter how much they release, there's nothing there, nothing new, no factoid. It's time to end the Democrat Epstein hoax and give the Republican credit for the great, even legendary job they're doing, make America great again. He needs to call out Marjorie Taylor Greene and Massie for their role in this as well. Maybe. I don't like being hard on Republicans until after 2026, but do your thing, guys. Here's what James Comer is sticking to. A February 2024 memo from Joe Biden's own White House counsel undermines his claim that he personally approved pardons. So his counsel was false. The White House memo shows that by his final year, Biden was increasingly deferring to VP Harris, time to subpoena her, judgment rather than his own when approving pardons in a bombshell memo. Let's look at that by John Solomon Reports. We do love him. Here's just the news. I'll read just the headline. Bombshell memos. Biden aides believed he should sign pardons by hand, and he outsourced the approval to VP Kamala Harris, which is unconstitutional. So this must be one of the lines of argument that James Comer is doing. He's floating the information up through this article through John Solomon as one of his reliable sources. Internal memos obtained by Just the News show President Joe Biden's aides believed at the beginning of his administration that he had an obligation to personally sign official presidential actions, including pardons, and chronicle how the former president later outsourced clemency decisions to the then Vice President Kamala Harris, which is illegal. Which ones did he do? Oh my, here's the autopen bombshell. Biden's decision memo on commuting federal death row sentences is unmarked by his decision. And NARA cannot find a version indicating President Biden's approval, per John Solomon Reports at Just the News. These convicted murderers can now face the death penalty. The autopen cannot save them. Do you look at this? Look at this. This is the document they got. This is a decision memo recommended death sentences clemency action. This is when they gave 1,500 people on death row clemency, and they claimed it was under the autopen. But look, here's the approve decision, reject decision, discuss decision, or approve as amended. There's no signature, not even an autopen is on this one. And they released all these guys they took them off death row. And now we can go back and give them the death penalty again. This is huge, great news being done by John Solomon. Here's Newsweek. Donald Trump reveals new Joe Biden-inspired White House artwork. We're going back to the autopen. What did he do? This one's going to crack you up. President Donald Trump revealed in an interview on the Daily Caller that there's a piece of art, I'm an artist, inspired by former President Joe Biden being prepared for display at the White House. They're going to hang a new Biden painting in Trump's White House. Trump told the outlet, we put up a picture of the autopen. This is controversial, guys. Trump is going to post a picture of Joe Biden, of the autopen as President Biden in the official White House. Art, I'm an artist. It is subversive. It is useful for politics. It's great work. It is fun to use. It ought to be a truth-telling medium, and Trump is telling a truth with this piece of art. And that's why you guys follow me, my unique artistic take on the news. I think I see things from a slightly different direction than some creators do, some news people do, and that's what we do every day. I thank you guys for supporting me. Thank you guys for watching. I'm Doug in Exile.